Mr. Joshua Miguel Lopez. And of course, Mr. Pocholo Ponch Miguel Espina.
Sorry, I haven't seen him in
Forever.
5 years or something. Yeah.
For this panel discussion, we'll be talking about how we can actually merge or marry economic development and environmental and social stewardship. So, long story short, ang pag-uusapan po natin ay sustainable development or development, pag-uunlad na binabalanse at pinagsasama-sama ang tao, planeta at ang ekonomiya. It's development that meets the current generation's needs. So hindi naman pwedeng para sa sake ng future generations, lahat tayo maghihirap ngayon. Pero dapat ang pamumuhay at pagtatrabaho natin, inaalagaan ng meron tayo upang ang mga susunod na henerasyon, kaya din nilang magawa ang ginagawa natin at kaya din nilang masustentuhan ang sarili nila. So we have our three amazing panelists here to tell us more about how exactly we could do that. So I would probably butcher introducing you guys. So I will let you guys do that yourselves, starting with you, Raf. Please introduce yourself to our amazing audience.
Hi everyone, my name is Raf Junicio. To friends I haven't seen in a long time, and to those I just met today, nice to see you. My companies Make a Difference Travel, but I wear several hats. No? So rather than tell you what my company does, I'll tell you what I want to do specifically, which is based on historical research. History is important. If you've seen the Senate records of the US on why they bought the Philippines in 1900 for $20 million US, it says there, one congressman or senator saying, Mr. President, the US, there's no field in California that will match the fertility of the land in Luzon. And there is lumber in the Philippines that will last generations. And it has lasted generations. It's almost done, right? With that said, the existing billionaires of the world, especially those who acquired wealth 100 years ago, right? Most of their wealth is based on an extractive economy, meaning magmamina ako, maglalaging ako, or I'll develop, bahala na yung kalikasan, right? And what's happened is now, fast forward to 2024, when we've depleted a lot of our resources. Earth Overshoot Day is somewhere in July now, right? Yung mga katutubo na nakakatrabaho namin through ecotourism, minsan sasabihin, alam mo sir, hindi ko maintindihan yung batas. Kasi yung punat, yung straight-haired people like us, yumaman yan dahil sa logging. Ngayon, hindi kami pwedeng magputol ng pulo sa sarili naming lupa. Di ba amin to? Di ba lupa yung ninuno? Ba't di namin maputol? No? And I get it. Di naman nila kasalanan, di ba? Na umabot sa ganito yung sitwasyon natin sa mundo. And so that's why it's very important today that there are new forms of wealth creation that will take care of the environment, or even better, restore it to its original form. I just met someone in the room who you should talk to. Sir Nelson can do it very well. So please talk to him about waste management. For us, because we work in ecotourism, we work with communities. Katabahan namin ang sina Kuya Jerry sa Cadawis. We work with the Aitas in Subic Day. They're CAT P001, so it's an interesting storyline. And we work with Aitas in San Felipe, Zambales, where we're trying to grow 3,000 hectares. What we see is that the best defense, in connection to your story about the coffee shop, kahit anong pwedeng gawin siyang pagkakitaan. So, following that mindset, what we're trying to do is bibigyan namin kayo ng pagkakakitaan, pero gaganda yung kalikasan in the process. So what we have today, we have a cashew agroforest in Zambales. It's 25,000 cashew trees. Lahat naman lahar sa Zambales. No? So yung nag-advise sa amin ito, told us in 2016, plant cashew, tigas ng ulo namin, we planted in 2020. No? So we're 4 years late. But what's nice is that apparently everyone can harvest it, right? We're importing most of it. There's a shortage in the country because it's Vietnam and China supplying us cashew. And it's climate tolerant. It's literally plant and forget. Kasi kaya niyang mamuhay sa lahar, which is a very hostile environment. Right? And so, in many ways, the economic solutions, some of them are in natural science. Right? Some, not all. So we still need a lot of science to go forward. Right? And so what we do in our tours, whether it's with the Dumagat, the AITA, sometimes we have a program called Beyond Cleanup because we must manage our waste. It's part of the carbon equation. Right? We're trying to showcase in every possible way. How do you reduce your carbon? How do you up your environmental capacity? How do you create like monetary wealth as well? No? Because it has to be together, and I think this is the first. I don't know. The combination of people living today are the first combination of generations that have a chance to actually come up with a regenerative economy that makes people wealthy, because it doesn't exist yet.
That's true, and I think when we talk about regenerative economies, we also touch on, say, sectors like energy, which I think you're the expert in. So could you tell us more about?
Ayun po. So magandang umaga. So ako si Joshua. I come from Reboot Philippines. Isa siyang NGO. We call it a youth powered organization that aims for the just energy transition in the Philippines. So familiar po kayo sa just energy transition as a concept? Meron po bang familiar? Or, ayun. So yung energy transition, it's the transition from carbon-based na energy systems, yung coal, oil, gas, to renewable energy. But when you say just energy transition, it's a transition that would not be at the cost of the people, not at the cost of the environment. So malaking elemento dun sa trabaho namin ay pagsisigurado na kung ano man yung magiging tahaking ng energy transition sa Pilipinas, ay yun ay nararapat sa kung ano yung yung pangailangan natin dito. So marami sa trabaho namin, kahit we're pushing for energy transition, we're also working with communities on the ground, trying to apply renewable energy systems for agricultural communities. To a certain extent, we're also engaging with anti-RE groups, interestingly, dahil sa perspective naman nila ay yung transition to renewable energy ay mas nakakalala ng sitwasyon nila on the ground. So that's what we're working on. We engage with communities. We work a lot with the education sector. Meron kaming multi-year project ngayon pushing for environmental and energy education in basic education sector. And we're also working with youth in local governance. So local youth development councils, young councilors, ang SK officials, para mailapat yung energy transition sa local energy plans. So yun po, yun work.
Thank you. And Poch, could you tell us more about your work with carbon credits, circular economy? Dami mong ginagawa. So ikaw na bahala mag-introduce sa sarili mo.
Thanks, Jonto. So magandang umaga po sa lahat. My name is Pocholo Espina. You can call me Poch. So I do two things. I run this company called SIPPH, which is a social enterprise that provides eco-friendly alternatives, mostly through retail, but we've also worked with several companies in the past. And then I also do futures. So this is a carbon credit development firm. So our focus is mostly on reforestation activity, as well as mangrove restoration. But actually one of the more interesting things that we've been working on is what we call tech-based projects. So usually these types of projects, stuff that Raf has mentioned, Masumi is also a similar model, but it doesn't use carbon credits, of course. Not yet, maybe. But with what we call tech-based solutions, we work now with companies in using whatever technologies that they have. So for example, maybe a cool example would be wastewater treatment. So a lot of these things are done, it's supposedly mandated by the government to properly manage our waste, but the SOP in the province would be just to dump wastewater directly into our bodies of water, as seen in Sir H's presentation earlier with Laguna Dubai, right? A lot of tributaries are actually used rather as just areas where we dump our wastewater. So by collecting solid matter, so any organic waste that has been put into our wastewater, this actually prevents the methane release, which is 26 times more potent than carbon dioxide, and this in turn prevents the phenomenon of global warming and climate change. So by doing these, companies are actually incentivized to do these types of projects that remove carbon from the atmosphere. And I think this is one of the things that I'm really excited to see develop, because I think when we started our projects from in the 2010s, I never imagined a career in sustainability. That's the like I was supposed to be I was supposed to go to med school, and the next thing I know, I found myself in a social enterprise and then eventually in conservation projects. Because now more than ever, probably people here as well, enterprises, companies who are with us today, now have the incentive to do something good, right? It's finally, I mean, it's not perfect, far from perfect, of course, pero gusto natin at least magka-align naman yung objectives natin towards conservation.
Thank you, Poch. So, to give an overview of how we're gonna run this discussion, sisimulan natin sa pagtatanong kung bakit pa importante na pag-usapan at trabahuhan natin ang tourism, energy, at circular economy. Bakit silang tatlo ang pinili? Well, hindi mo kayong tatlo, yung tatlong ginagawa ng sektor, no? Bakit importante? Bakit mahalaga? At siguro tatanungin ko rin kayo, ano yung mga broad stroke strategies para masimulan tayo papunta doon. And then we'll go into some best practices that you've seen work to give ourselves and our audience here some inspiration. And then we'll potentially conclude the session with your recommendations or suggestions or how you see Rizal doing the same. So from what's broad and general, we'll start going into what's concrete later on. So para walang sorpresa, alam natin lahat saan tayo papunta. So I'll kick things off. Once again, maybe you can share a couple of the top two, kung hindi kayo makakapili ng isa, the top 2 reasons bakit napaka-importante for sustainable development na pag-isipan natin or incorporate natin ang tourism. And ano yung top 2 ways or strategies by which we could attain it?
Well, maybe just as a side note, our family business is also into construction materials. And when I put that together, construction and tourism are two of the most deadly for the environment, right? So, and I think what's important here is I ask myself, will people stop building houses? The answer is no. We're going to double the urban setting by 2050. Then will yung mga tao ba, titigil sa pagpasyal? Hindi rin, di ba? People need a break, right? Especially from intense work. And so, there's no choice. And so, you have to take the bull by the horns. And perhaps the best example I'll give you is for tourism in general. My second tourism enterprise was the first field. It's called Circle Hostel. I went to a small hostel in San Felipe, Zambales. And that day, once a year ka lang mag-beach cleanup, okay lang. But we saw how it just degraded to the point na, at some point, pati ako, ayoko na mag-swimming. No? We closed our hostel, COVID. No? And now when I'm back, parang ang sakit tignan, right? And so, what we do now, we talk to some LGUs about sustainable development. Why you need to think about your tourism. What I do na lang is I tell them, I give them stories 1970 to year 2015, 1980 to year 2020. What was Boracay like and where did it go? What was Sagada like? Where did it go? What was Siargao like? Where did it go? Right? And the reality is that if development is not sustainable, what happens is yung mga taga ron, sobrang kawawa. Kasi una, yung pagkain sobrang mahal. Sa Siargao, yung barkada ko dati, barkada namin ni Anjo. Kung ang Siargao, may dala siyang canned goods. Happy yung taga doon. Tapos siya hihingi ng fresh fish. Ngayon, baliktad na. The locals can only afford the canned goods kasi the fresh fish is too expensive in some areas. Not all areas. But that's why you have to really take more of an active governance stance. Because it's not, the allocation of resources it's not a just transition, I would say. Right? And so if you want to prevent poverty, you want to prevent people from being angry, if you still want your kids to have clean air, yun dahilan.
So, very important and really interesting or important strategy is active governance sa pananatili. And I guess you have to make sure that you don't push out any of your most original constituencies just because you're trying to boost the economy of your area. Energy, bakit importante na we're talking about renewable, clean energy? How do we get there? And posible ba talaga?
Okay. So, parang challenging yung mga questions. So siguro for bakit importante yung renewable energy, I can think of two things. First, siguro lahat naman sa atin ay aware sa climate change. Yeah, and we were reminded last week or last week nung nag-suspend ng classes dahil sa heat waves, which was unheard of before. Ngayon tayo, may mga suspensions na dati ba din siya, diba? Or dati bahala. Ngayon heat waves na din. The impacts of climate change are getting worse. For farmers na bumababa na yung produce nila, minsan wala talagang ani. For regions like ours in Bicol, taga Bicol po ako, mas tumalala yung mga bagyo. So every year parang kailangan nakabudget sa'yo yung bagong pupong kasi lilipatin siya. So marami ng mga impacts on climate change, and we're one of the most climate vulnerable countries. So it's one thing for us to contribute to averting the climate crisis. But also looking at it from people's perspective, no? Sobrang mahal ng kuryente sa Pilipinas. Sobrang mataas pa rin ng energy poverty pagdating sa Pilipinas. And in terms of resilience, no? Yung kuryente natin hindi masyadong energy resilient. Parang very familiar story sa atin. Kapag may bagyo, meron agad na nakakabit na brown out. Minsan buwan pa ang hinihintay para doon. And now that we have the advent of renewable energy technologies, we have solutions not only to the climate problems, but also to the social problems. How do we get there? So, mauubos yung discussions. I'll only focus on the two top things for me. First would be emphasis on decentralized energy. So, pasintabi po may mga energy sector din po tayo dito from the utility scale, which also has its role in the whole ecosystem ng energy grid. Pero ang position ko ng Reboot, we have to start with the foundation of decentralized energy. Dahil mayaman naman tayo sa kuryente, at the same time nagiging malaking problema sa atin yung grid congestion. So yung grid congestion, yung hindi mapatawid sa transmission lines ang kuryente dahil marami ng renewable energy, good thing. So pwede natin gawin is mapababa yung demand niya sa grid by installing smaller scale renewable energy in communities, in households, in subdivisions, para mas makatutok din yung utility scale in areas like Metro Manila na sobrang concentrated ng demand. But the other thing na very important as well is climate and energy education. So we did this survey sa Bicol teachers in 2021, and na-surprise din kami sa results dahil 1/3 sa mga science teachers na sinurvey namin ay hindi naniniwala sa climate change sa Bicol, kung saan kami tinatamaan ng bagyo. And when we probed why this was the case, ano ba understanding ng climate change, ganyan, they were mentioning parang polar bears. They were mentioning polar bears, the melting of ice caps, which is very legitimate.
Sabi mo, Pilipino natutunaw na din.
Exactly. Very legitimate causes, but these are experiences that are far detached sa lived experiences ng mga Pilipino. So it seems for us like it's a theoretical thing.
What year was that?
2020. Public schools. So yun. So medyo na din kami. Na-wake up din kami. Okay, kailangan natin tumutok sa climate and energy education because these are the people who would be our consumers, be our leaders, be our workers. So yun, kailangan natin siya tutukan. So yun siguro. And as to the last question of whether it's possible, there have been many studies. At this point, sobrang baba pa naman ng saturated ng porsyento ng renewable energy sa Pilipinas. It's 32% including hydro and geothermal. And based on the USAID study, we can the grid can absorb 30% to 50%. So ang layo pa natin na hindi natin kailangang problemahin yung questions of is it possible or not. Marami pang oras, marami pa tayong pwedeng gawin bago natin maging problema yan.
For the circular economy, siguro before we get into that, baka pwedeng pa-explain muna yung concept ng circular economy. Tas ba't ito mahalaga? Especially paano to, bakit ito beneficial? Tapos strategies to get there.
Thanks, Chantal. So yung ano po, so we can start with, so the circular economy is a pretty new concept kasi as of now, our economy operates in what we call a linear economy. So what happens there is you're just, I think the mention is Eric, I mentioned in Anne earlier that we just, when we find something, we'll just take all the land, take all the resources, and then extract everything, process it, and then dispose. So that's very problematic because a lot of our resources are non-renewable as well, and even the forest, even if you do cut it, replant it, it'll take years and years before it regenerates. So that's the first thing we have to remember. Linear economy is not something that can work in the long run. Over time, our resources will get depleted, and worse off, yung waste na naproduce dito, where does it end up? So I think, I mentioned in Sir H about how we have become the top plastic polluter. I do have an extra note on that, pero mamaya na lang. We become that, and at the same time, we will simply run out of resources at some point. Yun yung main problem. So the circular economy is this concept that we want to introduce into every business, into every even policy. Na dapat everything we take, we will find another way to repurpose it in the long term. So simple as, let's say, actually, this is a very good example about the plastic bottle gun. A lot of events would usually see them. They say they're sustainable, and then all of a sudden, puro plastic bottle. Things like these, even in a small setting as Masungi, everything you can see is reusable. Even yung lalagyan ng pangalan natin is a pine cone. So these are the small initiatives, and going to those strategies, right? That we need to understand na there are certain ways that are already accessible. Kahit gaano kaliit or gaano kalaki yung business or yung initiative natin, we just have to look inward. The most useful strategy I would say that is applicable across all sizes of businesses is called a waste audit. So where does a lot of our waste come from? Because sometimes you'll think that plastic is the most evil of the waste. Not entirely true. Actually, you'd be surprised that a lot of our waste here in the Philippines is actually coming from food waste. For a country that still has problems with giving access to food to so many people, we find ourselves producing so much carbon emissions also from this same waste. So we have to remodel that, we have to rethink it. How else can we recover? How else can we minimize in the first place? Because normally yung response, and actually this is one of the biggest criticisms of what we call the extended producer responsibility law that got, it started actually last year, 2023, where companies that go above 1 billion in assets are now required to manage, to recover their waste. But that's a problem. Yung keyword dun is recover, kunin ulit. But in the first place, why would we produce the plastic in the first place? Why would we extract more oil when in fact we have so much plastic waste already available? So we have to think about it that way talaga na. We need to look at how much are we producing, how can we reduce it, and anything else we found along the way, any waste, how can we repurpose it and use it to fuel our economy further.
Thanks, Poch. Babalik muna ako sa'yo, para hindi naman tayo monotonous. Ano yung mga best case examples na nakikita mong nagpapakita talaga ng circular economy? I have a couple of friends and we help in this regard as well. Kunwari yung food surplus, imbes na itapon, i-redistribute sa mga communities, lalo na yung mga nangangailangan ng pagkain. Tapos yung mga hindi naman na pwedeng kainin, dadalhin sa mga urban farms, i-biocompost, para maging fertilizers, ibabalik sa lupa. Para imbes na sa landfill ilagay, makakain, o kung hindi, well, kakainin either ng tao o ng decomposers natin. So, ano iba pang circular economy solutions na nakita mong nag-work na baka pwede natin pagkuhanan ng inspiration?
Sige, I actually wanted to particularly highlight something kasi environmentalism is seen, especially nowadays, more so, example, yung business ko actually, we started off with metal straws and these were priced at 80 pesos, for example. Pero yung plastic straw, ilang centavos lang, di ba? So yung pinaka-perception na nangyari with environmentalism is it's only for the rich, right? Because only they can afford to actually create these initiatives. While it has a lot of truth, there's a lot of weight in what bigger producers of pollution and plastic come from, there's also initiatives even at the sari-sari store level. So there's two initiatives actually, very similar. It's been implemented by Greenpeace in Quezon City and San Juan. It's called Buha sa Tingi. So these are refillery projects. So there's some difficulties in the law actually that makes it hard to transition to this. But for example, detergents, dishwashing, soy sauce, suka, it's already accessible. So ito na yung ginagawa ng mga sari-sari stores. They're given access. Capital has been provided through grants to Greenpeace, to governments, and also another non-profit that my friend also runs. Have you heard of Wala Usik? It's a what do you call this? Circular economy initiative as well, in Sipalay in Negros Occidental. Yes, Negros Occidental. So same concept essentially. They're trying to transition sari-sari stores into using refillery, showing that even at a community level, kayang-kaya natin. Hindi limited yung sustainability dun sa bigger companies. But of course, it goes without saying that a lot of the responsibility, a lot of the weight will still come from the bigger players. But it's good to see that there are these initiatives at least.
Tama naman. And alam mo, tuwing may mga nagtatanong nga sa amin na parang, paano yun? Kailangan ng mga tao ng sachets, kailangan nila bumili ng tingi-tingi. And kasama rin yan sa Filipino culture. Para may nagsabi nga sa akin, ano ba yung Filipino culture dati? Nung, like, let's push back a few years ago, few decades ago. Pag kumukuha ka naman daw talaga sa palengke, tatakal mo naman talaga, tas lalagay sa bayong mo. Nung na-invento yung sachets, biglang lahat tayo, uy, convenient, eto na. Tapos sa tingin natin, eto na yung realidad. Pero sa totoo lang, nasa kultura naman talaga natin na yung gatas dinedeliver sa doorstep mo noon. Naka-glass bottle, inumin mo, tapos i-refill. Nung bata ko, yung RC Cola, pag bibili namin sa sari-sari store, di ba? Inumin mo, tapos babalik mo sa kanila, may 2 pesos kang deposit fee. So nasa atin naman yun, kailangan lang natin balikan at pagbutihin pa kasi may mga FDA regulations ngayon on health and safety para mapabalik yun. In terms of balancing these things, we're balancing the environment and the social aspect. Pagdating naman sa just renewable energy transition, I think, naging problem nga din ni Masungi, wind farms, for instance, they want to build it on biodiverse, protected areas for the sake of the environment. So how do you balance these things? And marami na kami ibang lugar dyan na pwede mag-taniman. So how do we resolve these kinds of issues?
Sa amin kasi, sa yung position namin dito is, kung yung mag-decide or yung mag-determine ano ba yung just in a particular area would be mainly the community that has resided in it. Kasi syempre, sila yung pinaka-maapektuhan. And at the same time, the resources that mostly for large-scale energy projects, yung benefits na makukuha from those energy investments would not necessarily go to the communities where they were extracting the energy from. It would go to our communities in Metro Manila. And kumbaga borrowing from the advocacies, yung mga parating sinasabi ng Save Sierra Madre, in the case of the Layban Kaliwadang, parang bakit ang mga tao sa bundok ang problema ng mga tao sa Metro Manila?
Sa casino.
At sino?
Casino.
Yun. So parang bakit sila yung maaapektuhan? We have legitimate problems, yes. Pero bakit at their expense? So we always have to start with what will be the effect of our projects dun sa communities na lalagyan natin. And baka naman merong alternatives. Baka mukhang, if you look at it from a mostly financial perspective, parang ito yung pinakamaganda. Pero if you account for the social and environmental externalities, hindi na siya, hindi na talaga siya, yung balance ng benefits would not be more than the costs. So, yun muna siguro.
We'll go back. I'll turn to you, Rafin, a bit, but I just want to double down on what you said now. You want to be able to look into and prioritize what the community, I guess, prefers when looking into interventions that might work. But as we all know, in reality, voices aren't equal. And so if you go into a particular locality, even majority of the population there wants a particular thing, say, let's not do this, let's conserve this instead. You have more powerful actors in that local area who might have more of a say. So how do you then advance your cause or the community's cause? What would we as CSOs, as advocates need to do in order to make sure we're heard?
Okay. Very challenging conversations, no? Pero conversations that we need to make. Tawag siya, in the case of our experience, we're working with a community in the Apunan area, sa may Pakil. So medyo ganun din yung nangyari. So people are resistant to building a dam in their area dahil malaki yung cultural value nung lugar. So may falls doon na parang, as in religiously, parang may religious significance yung falls. May old communities na rin doon na, I mean, since way back, andun na yun. And merong threat na masira yung falls. May malulubog na mga forests, agricultural lands, and even communities ay malulubog. So malakas ang resistance noon. And then may hinuli na, yung leader nila, hinuli. And then after yun, saka nagkaroon ng survey. So ang lumabas sa survey, 73% are pro the establishment of the dam. But if you read it through the context of nanguhuli sila ng mga anti. So pupunta tayo dun sa sitwasyon na they can create a perception that people are supportive even though they're not. So what can CSOs do about it? It's well, ang power naman talaga ng CSOs, ng power naman ng people's networks is through numbers, consolidating support across the sectors that will be affected, showing the effects of what's happening in Sierra Madre to people in Metro Manila, so that we can link to people who might have access to the people who make the decisions. So it's hard work. It's very difficult conversations, pero these conversations have to be done.
So knowing who you're supposed to communicate to, linking up with them, and most importantly, knowing how you're going to communicate to get the message across and to actually win them over. Now, Raf, you're a master of storytelling, considering Mad Travel is pretty much also all about storytelling. So how do we communicate the need for, say, sustainable tourism, sustainable development to the people who need to hear it, to the public? Kasi sabi nga nila, yung public school teachers, they don't perceive climate change as real. A lot of our leaders don't perceive it as a priority. Kasi marami tayong ibang kailangan sa agenda. How do we communicate it properly? How do we begin? And how do we start that storytelling narrative?
So, I guess to connect, just to set the context of my answer, 21 of 100 Filipinos will make it the first year in college. 21, right? Of those 21, 19 will make it the second year, and then the number just goes down, right? Those who graduate from university, can we expect every university graduate to understand what a regenerative or sustainable economy is? No, diba? I mean, that's why we're in this room. One of the big ticket changes that I saw in terms of like change in mindset, just connecting to what you said, is, if you're familiar with what's his name, Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah.
The first 1 million viewers he got were public school teachers, right? And you actually gave me an idea. We should translate that into Tagalog, diba? Bisaya. But because of that, the teachers today are more environmentalist, no? And it's very true. With Magis, we work with schools. We work with international schools, British School, ISM, Chinese International, and then we work with public schools. And generally, with the public school, my position is principal. Kung ano yung gusto niyong workshop, bibigay namin sa libre. Just give me the date and the venue. Train all your teachers, and the content will give it to your kids for free. And they're very hungry for knowledge kasi walang nagkukwento sa kanila, right? And perhaps one action point is that, right? And when you storytell in that context, or in whatever context that you storytell, what's worked best for Matt is always what we call show and tell. Diba sa paaralan, pakita mo kung ano ginagawa ng magulang mo, ito yung kamatis na tinanim ni Papa, o ito yung injection na ginagamit ang nanay ko, doktor siya. Show and tell always no. So for man, our best storytelling is before and after. And before and after is stronger kapag gumanda yung kalikasan, pag dumami yung pera sa bulsa ng tao. Which is what we're trying to do, no? When I got the chance to go to Thailand, and they showed us their tech industry, right? And their tech industry is all food technology. That's so amazing. I am part of a business incubator sponsored by the government, which is a tech incubator, but there's no food tech in our incubator. No? It's apparently in the DOST's scope of responsibility, which is good it exists, but I think it needs more firepower, right? Just because a lot of the solutions that, a lot of the decisions that need to be made on, let's say, dams, renewable energy, there's always in the background, medyo mahirap ang tao, di ba? Kahit saan naman di ba? It's the majority of our country. And so, if you can empower them to get to a certain level where they're not dependent on, begging or just one company, then you give them freedom of choice. And that's economic empowerment at the core. No? We're seeing that in some of the communities we have where before, pag tag-ulan, humihingi yan, sir, bigyan mo kami ng relief goods. 4 years later, nagkabagyo ulit, sir, pangin relief goods. Ang sagot ko, magkano community fund yun? Di ba binayaran ko kayo ng 50,000? Asan na yun?